Welcome students. Let's continue our course on operations management, and this lecture we are going to discuss about the second part in the project management, that is the critical path method. Before we actually get into understanding the critical path method, let us take a simple example, an illustration, just to understand the critical path method. While this is not qualifying to be a project, cannot be handled through a project management approach like what we saw in the earlier lecture, I'm taking this very simple example so that we can understand it quite quickly, and we can move on to a more complex case based on the understanding of the concepts through this illustration. The project is something like this. The project is that you need to attend an important client meeting at your office at 9 a.m. along with your boss and your sales manager, and you are the operations manager. Okay. The various tasks involved are: A. You, the operations manager, take the cab at 7:30 from your home and reach the hotel where the client is staying at 8 a.m. Your sales manager, who is living close by to the hotel, just walks across starting at 7:40 a.m., reaches the hotel at 7:50, just yaps with the client, and then wait for you for your cab. Then you arrive at 8 o'clock in the hotel. You pick up the client and your colleague, drive to your office, traveling for about 30 minutes, and then you reach the office at 8:30. As soon as you reach there, your guest asks for the conference room. He goes and takes his private conference call with another supplier of his between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. In the meantime, what you do, you catch up with your morning course, and that takes about 20 minutes for you. So by 8:50, you complete the work and get ready for the meeting. All of you reach the room at 9 o'clock, and the meeting starts at 9 o'clock. So this is the plan. Okay. Let us try to understand this project from a critical path perspective. Before we get into a network diagram and things like that, let me explain the whole situation, the set of activities, using a simple diagram. Say here you are. You start from your home, that is activity A, drive down to the hotel. At what time you start from home? You start at 7:30. So you start and at 7:30, travel for 30 minutes to reach the hotel at 8 o'clock. Okay. Your colleague, the sales manager, is already there, who leaves at 7:40 from his home, which is just across the street, walks down for 10 minutes to reach the hotel at 7:50. So you arrive at 8 o'clock, they are ready, and all three of you drive down to your office, which becomes the activity C. What is the time at which you can start? The earliest time at which you can start. Can you start at 7:50 because your colleague is already there? Obviously not. You need to be there. Only when you reach you can drive. So the earliest that you can start is 8 o'clock. Then you drive for 30 minutes to arrive at the office at 8:30. What happens in the office? Your client goes to a private room and takes his conference call with another supplier of his, which becomes the activity D, and he starts his conference call at 8:30, and it runs for 30 minutes, and he completes it by 9 o'clock. Then what you do? You go to your desk and then catch up with whatever is left out. You start your work at 8:30. do it for 20 minutes to complete it by 8:50. All of you assemble in the conference hall and the meeting begins. So 9 o'clock the meeting begins. Okay, let us connect all these things by a set of arrows. And this becomes a primitive network diagram. Okay, now let us do it in the reverse way. If you have to start the meeting at 9 o'clock, when is the time at which your client should complete his conference call? The latest, he has to complete it by 9, right? And when is that you should complete your morning course? At 9. The maximum that you can take is only up to 9 o'clock. If you have to start your the client meeting at 9 o'clock, you have to complete your morning work till 9 o'clock. You have to complete it by 9 o'clock. So if you have to complete it by 9 o'clock, when is the latest start? When can you start the latest? You can start by 9 less 20 minutes, which is 8:40. Here, okay, let me put that here so that it becomes a little easy. Let me add it here. If you have to, the 9 o'clock you need to complete, so 20 minutes is what you will take, so you can at the latest start by 8:40. Same is the case here. Your client should complete his conference call at conference call at 9 o'clock, in which case he has to start definitely by 8:30. If this is the case, what time you have to reach the office? The earliest, can you reach by 8:40? No, you cannot, because your client has to start his work by 8:30. So the latest you can reach the office is 8:30, and if you have to reach the office at 8:30, you need to leave the hotel at 8 o'clock definitely, right? If you have to start from the hotel at 9 o'clock, which what time you have to leave your home? At 7:30 you have to leave your home. You don't have any cushion for you. What about your friend, your colleague? He has to be there in the hotel latest by 8 o'clock. Okay, in which case he can leave his home by 7:50. That's adequate, because he just takes 10 minutes to walk across. Now this whole process, a simple calculation we will do. Just find the difference between these two timings. 9 less 9, there is no slack here. This is what is known as slack or cushion. There is no slack here. Between these two, is there a slack? No, there is no slack. Between these two, is there a slack? Yes, there is a 10 minutes slack. Between these two, is there a slack? No, there is no slack. Between these two, is there a slack? Yes, 10 minutes slack. And between these two, do you have a slack? No, there is no slack. What does it mean actually? It means in a critical path method, wherever you don't have a slack, that particular activity is running on a critical path, is what it means. Let us try to highlight it and then understand what is that critical path. There is no slack here, so this becomes a critical path. There is a slack of 10 minutes, so this is not a critical path. Your colleague can take a slack of 10 minutes. He did not start exactly at 7:40 as planned, but even if he starts 10 minutes later from his home, he will still be able to catch up with the meeting. In this case again, you have a slack. Here you don't have a slack. in this case, so this becomes a critical path. Does this become a critical path? No, because you have a slack here, 10 minutes, and here there is no slack, so this becomes a slack. This becomes a critical path. So the critical path is A, C, D, F. A, C, D and F becomes the critical path. What is meant by critical path? We have seen it yesterday. A critical path is the one which connects and has the longest time. And if there is any delay in this critical path, the activities in the critical path, it will delay the entire project. Let us see if that is the case. Here, if you get delayed by 10 minutes, instead of 30 minutes, suppose you take 40 minutes because of the traffic, what will happen? You will reach the hotel at 8:10. If you reach the hotel at 8:10 and drive for 30 minutes to reach your office, you will reach the office at 8:40. If you reach the office at 8:40 and your client conference call starts at 8:40, he will complete the activity by 9:10 and your meeting can start only by 9:10. So any delay in the first activity which is on the critical path directly leads to the same delay across the entire critical path, the entire project. That delay gets translated to a delayed project. On the other hand, if you take the other activity which is not on the critical path, for example, you catching up with your morning chores, instead of starting at 8:30, you start at 8:35, okay, and run for 20 minutes to catch up with your work. 8:35 plus 20 will become 8:55 here. Instead of 9, it will become 8:55, but still you will be able to catch up with the meeting at 9 o'clock. So even if there is a delay of say 5 minutes or up to 10 minutes, it will not affect the completion of the project, which is the commencement of the meeting here. So if there is a delay in the non-critical path, it will not affect the overall project timeline, of course within a time within a slot, okay. Whereas in the critical path, if there is a delay, it will directly result in a delay in the entire project, and that is why we call it as a critical path. When you know which is the critical path, what will you do? You will be very careful about the entire critical path set of activities. You will make sure that you leave your home at 7:30 and you will check your car and things like that, that it will not halt in between, and you will tell your client as well that he has to complete his conference call at 9 o'clock. You will not be really bothered whether your friend starts at 7:40 or 7:45, because he is going to be there any case earlier to you, and same is the case with your office work as well. You will not be really concerned whether you complete it in 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So your focus will be on your driving down to the hotel, all of you driving down to the office, your client taking the conference call, and then being ready for the meeting. So this is how you will focus your resources and attention. So this is what is the critical path method. Let us try to capture all these details into a little bit of a theoretical way, or try to identify them, generalize them into a kind of a formula, so that we can use it for a more complex project. Before we doing that, let us get into a slightly difficult project and try to do it in a systematic way. In our example, we have done it in a very crude way. We will try to do it in a systematic way, the way in which you will find it in the textbooks. Let us take an example here. We are not really concerned about what activities all these A, B, C, D, etc. They are not the ones that we have just described, but any activity, any project. You have seen that there are several activities here, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and each one of them have a specific time, 9, 7, 3, 6. Let us assume that they are all weeks. Okay, these are all weeks for completing a particular project. And this table also gives the immediate predecessors. Predecessor means the ones which are directly connected to it, past events. Okay, let us try to build a network diagram using this table. It starts with A because there is a dash here, which means that there is no predecessor for A. So the starting point is A. Let me use a different color. A, and next activity is B, and B has an immediate predecessor as A, which means that you cannot commence the activity B unless otherwise A is completed. So I put this B after A and connect both of them with an arrow because time always travels in one direction. So I put A to B. Next, let us look at C. C also has its predecessor as A, which means that C comes here and I connect it with A with an arrow like this. Okay, the next activity is D, which has its predecessor as B, which means that the D is in front of B. So I put D here and connect it with B with an arrow like this. The next activity is E. E also has its predecessor as B, so I put E here and connect it with B like this. F has its predecessor C, I put it here, connect it like this. And the next one is G, that has two predecessors, E and F. Unless otherwise E and F are completed, you cannot commence G. So I put G here and connect both of them here. Okay, the activity, penultimate activity is H, which has its predecessor D. So I put H here and connect it like this. The last activity is I, which has its predecessor as G and H. Both of them are here, and I put I here and then connect them with G and H. This becomes the network diagram. It's simple, right? Now let us get into fixing the times. Now that we have used this column and this column for making the network diagram. For making the network diagram, you don't need the time slots, but we need to fill the time slots, fit the time slots into it in order to find the critical path. Let us do it now. Before we get into doing it, I'm just capturing the same picture that I have shown you with our simple example here. This is a convention. Okay. The convention is that you take a circle. This circle is nothing but the circle that we have written here. All these circles are the ones. I'm taking one circle, and how do you conventionally represent various time factors that we discussed? You take the circle. This is looking elliptical, but this is a circle. Write the activity here as A, B, etc. The time it takes to complete that activity is written here, the T, estimated time. And this is early start, which we have seen in our case. What is early start, early finish, late start, late finish. Late start, late finish. All these times are to be marked here. How do I find early start, early finish? In our example, we have easily found it. Simple way. The same thing can be captured as a formula here. Okay. This is how you have actually found the early start and early finish in our simple case, and I have just captured the formula here, that's all. Early start is nothing but the maximum of all early finish of the immediate predecessors of that activity. If you have one activity, it will be the early finish of its predecessor. If B, you want to find the ES of B, it will be nothing but the early finish of A, because in this case B has only one predecessor. B has one predecessor. So if you want to find out the ES, early start of B, it will be nothing but the early finish of A. If you want to find G, the early start of G, it will be the maximum of the early finish of E and F. The maximum of that. This is what the formula means. Because it has two predecessors, you will pick up the maximum EF of E and F. Let us use the formula for an example to understand it better. So the maximum of early finish of all immediate predecessors. What is EF? EF is nothing but the early start plus the activity time. Do you understand this in this case? Here you have seen this is nothing but 7:30 plus 30 minutes is 8, right? And this is 8 plus 30 minutes, 8:30. So this is the early start, early finish, right? How did you arrive at the early start and early start? You have used this formula there in the forward pass. And the return pass, the late finish is the minimum of the late start of all immediate following activities. In the forward pass it is the predecessor, and in the backward pass it is the following activity, and the difference is that this is minimum. If you apply this formula to our example, you will understand it better. You have actually found it without knowing this formula, but now we are just translating your understanding into a formula. Okay, slack, we have found what is a slack. Slack is the buffer that you have, right? Let us try to understand this with this example. We have actually built the network diagram. We are going to calculate the early start and the early finish for all these activities in the forward pass. Forward pass means A to I. Okay, you have to do a forward pass from A to I, and then you have to do a reverse pass also from I to A in order to find the slack, which is what we did in our case as well. Okay, let us take the activity A. Activity A has no predecessor because it is the starting activity. So its earliest start is 0. We are taking an absolute number. We are not taking like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, but we are taking an absolute number, say 0. The starting time is 0. After 9 weeks of activity, the activity A gets completed. So 0 plus 9 is equal to 9. So it's simple. In the forward pass, we have built the network node for A, activity A. Let us move on to the next activity. Now that this whatever we have computed, I have moved it to this place, and now I am taking activity B. B, you need to find the early start. What is the formula for early start? The maximum of the predecessors EF. Which is the predecessor of B? A is the predecessor of B. What is the early finish of A? This is the early finish of A, right? So there is only one predecessor. I just move that here. So that becomes the 9. And you know the EF is nothing but 9 plus 7, which is 16. So this plus 7 becomes 16. Right? So now we have built it for activity B as well. Now let us move on to C. Now whatever I have done, I have brought them here. A and B are completed. Now we are taking activity C. Activity C has a time of 3 weeks, and its immediate predecessor is A, and A has got 9 as its EF, early finish. So that becomes the early start of C. Then 9 plus 3 becomes 12. Right? Now we have completed for C also. Let us do it for D now. Okay. In D, what is the time? 6 weeks is the time, the estimated time. Then we need to calculate ES. For D, which is the immediate predecessor, B is the immediate predecessor, right? B is the immediate predecessor, and B has got its EF as 16, so that becomes the ES of D, and 16 plus 6 becomes 22 here, right? This way we can complete for all the activities which has been completed up to I, and you finally end up with a time called 34 weeks, right? Now this forward pass is completed. Now let us move to the reverse pass. When you move to the reverse pass, all that you need to do is that this has to just come here. The same value has to come here for the last activity. Whatever is the last activity, which is I, the early finish will become the late finish of the last activity. Like in example what we have seen, at 9 o'clock it has to start. So whether it is late start or late finish, it is 9 o'clock. It has to start at that time, right? So this 34 becomes 34 here when it comes to the reverse pass. That is what has happened here. I start with 34, and 34 less 3 becomes 31, right? Now we have completed for I. Let us move to H. Okay, for H, what is this value? This late finish will be minimum of late start of its successors. What is the successor of H? The successor of H is I. So what is the late start of I? It is nothing but this 31, the late start, right? The late start is to the left hand side. So this late start is 31, and that becomes the late finish of H. Similarly here, 31 less 5 is equal to 26. So this is computed. Then let us move to G. Now we are talking about G. I have moved I and H here. For G, the activity time is 6, and we need to find LF, which is the minimum of LS of its successor. What is the successor of G? This is I. So I, the late start is 31, and that becomes 31 here. So 31 less 6 is equal to 25. This way we complete for F now. F has got the value of 4 here, and the F successor is G. G has got its late start as 25, and that becomes the late finish of F, and 25 less 4 is equal to 21, right? This way we compute for all the activities, and the entire set of nodes are captured here. Now I capture the same data in a tabular form. The activities, the immediate predecessors, the time slot, early start, early finish, late start, late finish. Slack is late start less early start, late start less early start. Okay, this less this, or this less this. Late finish less early finish. If you do that, you will get some values in some for some activities, and some values will be 0. Wherever it is 0, it qualifies to be a critical path. So when you do that, A to B is a critical path. C is not in critical path. D is not in critical path. E is in critical path. So B to E is critical. Then F is not in critical path. G is in critical path. So E and G are in critical path. H is not in critical path. I is in critical path. So the critical path is this: A, B, E, G and I are in critical path. If you add the time taken by all these activities, you will get your project timeline. How is it? 9, 7, 9, 6 and 3. If you add up all these things, you will get 34, and this is the project timeline. And if there is any delay in any of these activities, your entire project will get delayed. Understood? With this, we come to the end of the lecture. Thank you very much.